Dun, da, 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 dun, da, da, da.
Yay! Hello, friends.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, friends.
Oh, I see the ping note taker. That reminds me. So, Scaling New Heights and Bridging the Gap both had ping note takers in the rooms. Those were pretty
Yeah,
darn cool. Yeah. I
yeah.
don't know if
I'm
anybody
actually,
went back and
yeah.
looked at those, but they did a good job of summarizing.
I think that Zoom should have an option, and maybe it does. And if somebody knows that it does, um, let me know. But I think it should have an option where uh, that note takers just aren't allowed it
Oh,
for webinars.
yeah. I don't know.
Well, and because the reason for that, hi everybody. The reason for that is because then you have like it shows more people than are actually in the room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Huh. Okay.
yeah.
I'm such an I'm so dependent on my note takers that note takers just get a pass with me.
They get a pass with you. Okay.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
ever been in a meeting where it's like I've been in meetings where there's fewer humans than note takers.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, what seems to be happening sometimes is that people have signed up for note takers and they're not using them, and they've used started using other note takers.
Uh-huh.
And so they've got their old note takers that they're like, no, just go kick that one out because I'm not using that one anymore. But I am using
Right.
that one. And so, yeah, I that one's kind of funny.
It is kind of funny.
But I
So hey
don't think I could
everybody,
live life
we're
without
at
note
four
takers at this
o'clock.
point.
We're at 4 o'clock.
Okay,
So
well, welcome
uh,
everyone to the happy
welcome.
hour. We're glad you're here.
We're gonna be talking about AI agents. Doo doo. Agents.
Yep.
Agentic
Mostly,
AI.
yeah, it's like what is a good um idea for an agent, what's not, what's ready for agents. So that, and then we have some little demo stuff that Heather and I have used agents for and just playing around to show you how easy it is. This whole idea of AI, a lot of people are like, and then you get into it and you're like, oh, it's really that easy.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah,
It is easy. It is easy. Yes.
it definitely is. So let me share
But
my
we're going to talk
screen.
about that a little bit because I'm just finishing up Bernice Brown Dare to Lead, and she's not the person who made this up, but she definitely uses it in her book over and over again when she says, that the best things in life or the most meaningful things that she's done in her life were neither fun, quick, or easy.
Huh.
And I think she's talking about it in a professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
anyway, I love Brene Brown. Love her.
Oh my gosh, I agree.
Love
Brady
her.
Brown's awesome.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she had some really cool ideas about some things that I implemented in my firm. The year that she was on the main stage, she was talking about implementing checklist for your team members to make sure that they're doing the tasks that it required of the job. And that used to be very hard to create SOPs, which is funny enough that we're going to be doing that today. But it used to be hard to create SOPs. It's not as hard anymore, but there's a lot of times whenever you have somebody who says, I do all of this for the firm, when in reality, you get down to it and you're looking at what are they actually doing. And oftentimes sometimes you find that they're not doing everything that they're saying that they're doing, especially whenever it's um, the ones who are usually the self-proclaimers that I'm your best employee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was trying to say that in a very diplomatic way. But anyway, so back to AI agent readiness. So that is
Readiness.
our topic for today. That's us. I think you know us. So Heather and I created the Appy Hour in order to be able to have a space for us to talk about technology. So that's the whole premise behind the Appy Hour. What's coming,
Uh-huh.
what's here, how do we use it? How do we get our community feeling comfortable? So,
And yes,
and
that is why we did it for sure.
yes, I thought you were going to say something else.
I was, but I was waiting. I realized I was jumping the gun, so I stopped.
Well, keep going.
Yeah, so
Take it away.
I was all excited to have this slide go to where it said Heather Day and Liz Scott. And then I remembered that we didn't change the Satterley because we couldn't do it in Google Slides. We had to do it in Canva. And I went out to Canva, but then I forgot to do it. So it still says Heather Satterley. But yeah, I'm having a branding makeover. Um, not really. I mean, I guess I am. Yeah, so I'm Heather Day, everybody. So I'm going back to my birth name, which is Heather Ann Day, and I'm dropping the Satterley. So by next Appy Hour, there will not be the word Satterley on the screen. It will say Heather Day. And for all of you that have known me as Heather Satterley, I know it's going to take me a while. It's going to take me a while to get to stop saying Heather Satterley, but I'm Heather Day now. So I did change it in my Zoom profile.
I think that's very cool. And you posted on Facebook, and people were saying, "Oh, it's a Heather Day," which
It
I thought was
is.
cute.
You know, when I changed my name to Satterley, there was a little bit of, I mean, I like the name Satterley. There's nothing wrong with it. But it has been kind of a PETA.
Yeah.
Honestly, because like my last name for most of my life, and yes, we are going to get into agents and I'll stop talking about my name, but it's been easy in my life up until the point that I changed my name to Satterley. It was so easy to spell my name. Like when you're on customer support and they're like, can you spell it? It's like D-A-Y, I'm done. Right? D-A-Y.
That's
Easy.
it.
Satterley, no, not so much. In fact, I would say that it is throughout my time as Heather Satterley, it has been in spelled incorrectly more often than it has been spelled correctly. So it'll be nice. It's hard to mess up day. So it'll be nice to not have to deal with that anymore. So enough about that. So hey everybody.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. At least it wasn't night, Michael says. Could have been,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's day.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think December 3rd is International Heather Day. So
Oh,
there's
goodness.
that.
What? Seriously? There's an International Heather Day? Hold on. I think I kind of need to go look to see. Is there an International Liz Day? Because,
I'm guessing that there probably is a Liz Day, but you are
okay.
not Liz Day. So
No,
you're
I'm
Liz,
not
but
Liz
yeah.
Day,
All
but I want to know if there's an
right.
International Liz Day. Okay, well, we'll
All
keep
right.
going.
So we're going to be talking about AI agent readiness. So we're in the middle of AI crazy runaway train time in our lives where everything moves, not just new updates every quarter or every 6 months, but we're seeing new, like transformative new functionality coming out literally every other day, it seems. So today, Liz and I are gonna, focus with you guys on, okay, we've got AI agents. Everybody was doing the chat. We did the chat thing. We're gonna talk a little bit about that, but we're gonna talk about, okay, agents. We need to be focusing on agents. They really are transformative. And so that's what we're gonna be digging in today.
I love it. And I think that you and I were talking about this. There's a little bit of talk already in the chatter about this. So, security. I mean,
Security. The reality
yeah.
check. It is security is the most important thing, but I think that there's other things. So hype is cool. Hype, hype, hype. AI. The cool kids are all doing it. I got to do it. If I don't, accountants uh accountants will not be replaced by AI, but accountants who don't use AI will be replaced by accountants who do. We've got all that going on. So before
I
we
know.
jump into the hype, because there is some truth to that, right? It's smarter, faster, better, is good. But there's stuff that we need to kind of level set on. And so these are kind of the four things, and it's security and privacy, right? Before you are doing any of this in your firm, you got to read the privacy policy. You got to read the privacy policy of, OpenAI, the privacy policy of Claude or Anthropic, Google, whatever it is. And this actually, you should be reading this for everything you use, not just AI, anything that you're using, because we are the stewards of sensitive financial and personal information. And we have to make sure that we're protecting that. And then read your end user license agreement. And that's going to come into bullet 3 when we talk about the third one, why that's so important. You need to understand who is responsible for when things go wrong. And spoiler alert, it's probably you. So, but you need to understand that. You need to actually take the time to read it and understand it. We have seen where there have been some pretty big, issues with AI, both on a data level and on a personal level, where there's been tragedy based on people relying on AI. And I think that we need to understand who's responsible for that. And then I'm going to kick it over to you for the permissions, Liz.
Well, going back to the security and privacy, my daughter, she over the summer took an AI writing course in college. And she's a journalism major. And, you can imagine that in the course of her degree program, the amount of AI that's being used throughout her program has changed dramatically. And so she's got one class left, so she's near the end, and took this AI writing class. And so it was funny because there was a lot of different mixed feelings about journalism and AI. But the professor said, are there any times that any of you feel that AI should be used? And this is the very beginning of the class. And a lot of the students who feel very anti-AI, which is interesting because the young 20-year-olds are anti-AI, a lot of them.
They are, you're right. Yes.
So, a lot of the students were like, I don't think that you should be using it at all, which is funny that they're in an AI class. But anyway, so the professor said, well, what about whenever you're getting a new agreement and it's pages after page and you have no idea what it actually says? So what am I agreeing to? He was like, go through that into AI. And then the class was like, oh, because nobody understands that stuff. They put it in a way that makes it difficult for you to comprehend on purpose. So
Legalese,
using
yeah. And that's
AI,
why we hired attorneys. So, I
it
mean,
is,
attorneys are gonna, are going definitely, I think it's the same thing, like the attorneys will be replaced by AI, will not be replaced by AI, but attorneys who use AI will be replaced by will replace them.
yes. I know
Whatever
where
I
you're
just
going
said.
with that. But I mean, the whole point is even whenever it's like I want to go back and I want to look at what did I sign up and agree to with Instagram, and has their user agreement changed? And even with my phone, I get updates and all of a sudden it's like, do you agree to the new policy? Well, I'm sure there's something in there that is not to my benefit.
Right.
And sleepily in the morning, sometimes I just say yes, go away. But it really is now very simple to throw that over into AI and to
And
diagnose what's
just so
happening.
you're aware, right? As long as
Yeah.
you're aware, and there could be something in there that is a total stopper, and you're like, well, as much as I want to use this tool, I can't agree to that. And
Yep.
if you're just blindly accepting it, which we've all done, right? Or I mean, at least I know I've done it and you've done it, and I guess, yeah, but let us know, have you ever blindly accepted terms and conditions on an app? Did
It
you read it?
happens. It
Did you read
happens.
it? But that's a great call out, Liz, is throw it into, that's a great use of AI, is throw it in there and say, summarize this in, like, tell me what this means for, and assume I'm like a fifth grader.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what
Love
should
it.
I be concerned about? Go ahead and ask AI that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
You do
moving
that.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So permissions, you were saying, Heather, like, to cover some of that. So what does the tool have access to? I think this is huge. You and I were playing earlier and we were connecting our GPTs to some various outside accounts. That to me is scary So
It
I
is
want to be
scary.
very careful. What does that app have access to and what can it do? So once it has access, can it read? Can it write? Can it edit? We were talking about there being a QuickBooks oopsie. So somebody had connected a QuickBooks file to Claude and then it erased everything inside the QuickBooks file. It deleted it. Okay, first of all, whose fault is that? Yours. Because you probably didn't look at the permissions. And even if it's something that the app did and you didn't think it was going to, it's still on you. So it comes back to you. And so what access does that app have? I think is very important. And so I'm
Yeah.
teaching a AI advisory course. And in that course, I'm showing connecting a middleware, not connecting directly to some of these GPTs for that very reason. All right, Heather, I pass it over to you for regulations.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, the other thing, I think there's two more things that I wanted to touch on this, Liz, was, what does the tool have access to? 100%. There's been lots of news stories out there about people having things deleted, or sending out things. But also who within your organization should have access to these tools, right? So I think that's important too. It's not just you, if you are in an organization or in a firm or a practice with multiple people in it, should everyone on your team have access to AI? And what permission should they have within AI, right? So what should they be about to do? And consider having only read-only access when you start. So only connecting things that have read-only. So read-only means it can go out and grab data from your, information from the different apps that you're connecting to it, but it can't write anything or take any executive function, like do something, which is what
Hmm.
agents do, is they can go out and they can actually do things, which is really cool, but also terrifying. And we've seen stories in the news where people have had all of their work deleted. Um, you want to start with baby steps. I work at Woodard, and we've had Claude for our company has had Claude for at least 6 months, but no one's had access to it for until like last month. We started getting access, and we have to go through the Claude training, like a certain level of Claude training before we can even get in. We have an extensive AI use policy on what we can and cannot do in Claude, what we can connect, and they have trained Claude to know when we step outside those boundaries. So if I try to connect something right to monday.com and ask a query, it'll say that goes against Woodard's AI use policy. It
Wow.
knows. And so there is, but my point is you have to be really intentional about it. And for us as as people stewards of our clients' financial and private information, we need to, be really careful with that. So get an AI use policy. If you don't know where to start, the AI CPA, if you're a CPA and you are a member of the AI CPA, they have a whole AI dashboard there. There is one. It's like a 2-pager. It's at least something to get started. But I think the thing that that concerns me is this is hype, but we have to protect ourselves, because going to the next bullet or square there is regulations and legal concerns, is that AI is still new, constantly evolving. We don't have any solid regulations. We have guidelines at this point, but everything is still, it's not final. It's not finalized, and it's different by state. And there's little precedent legally because cases have not been, they haven't been ruled on. So they're still litigating things that have come up, and they're going to continue to litigate. And so we don't have any definitive answers on, if I compromise data, is it the fault of OpenAI? Is it the fault of my firm? Is it the fault of who's liable for that? We don't know. So today, you have to assume if anything goes wrong, you are responsible, no one else. You have to go into this thinking, I don't, if something happens, I don't have something, I can't go and sue somebody. I mean, you can, but I would say, looking at it, that you need to be okay with, if something goes wrong, I'm going to assume that responsibility. And what that means is putting in guardrails, right? That guardrails that are going to protect you as much as you can. I'm not saying don't use it. That is not what I'm saying at all. AI is amazing. I use it every day. I probably use it every hour. But what I'm saying is that you have to be informed and you have to understand how to use it safely. And then go ahead, Liz. Sorry.
It's like when I see when I see some major institutions using AI, or any type of technology, I know we're not turning backwards. And the government, my husband works for the government, and he's required to put in to 4 different GPTs his job duties, 4 different. And so to me, that's a clear sign that AI is not going away.
It's not going anywhere. And I want to make it perfectly clear. I am not saying don't use it. That is
Hmm.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying use it, but be informed. Make sure that you have the information so that you feel comfortable. And then finally, pricing apps in your model. And what I'm talking about is the pricing for apps. So ChatGPT, Claude, what you're paying for that, and your pricing model for your practice. Those things, you're going to have to keep an eye on this. AI apps are super cheap right now. They just are. I do not believe they will always be cheap. I
Mm-mm.
believe that, and we're already starting to see this, and we're already starting to see, they called it the AI Mageddon or whatever it was, where we're starting to see AI apps now trying to get their pricing to be the value that is being experienced by the end user. And that will continue. So
Mhm.
make sure that your pricing always reflects value, not cost. It should not be reflected, whatever you're paying for the AI app should not be considered in your pricing. It's got to be the value and then go back and look at the cost for the cost benefit. But it's got to be the value. Otherwise, what will happen is you could end up low, your prices are way too low. You get a bunch of clients, and then all of the tools or the tools that you're using to deliver your services, all of a sudden there's pricing increases, and now you have to pass that along to your clients. And that, and I'm not saying you can't do it, but it makes it harder. So if you price to value, then you're probably going to be okay. Your margins are going to slim down, right? As the app companies start to increase their prices, your margins are going to go down. You've got to allow for that. So
Yeah,
that's it. That was the AI reality check.
I think it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I want to be mindful of time. So some of these we're going to go through kind of quickly because Heather and I
Yes.
have some cool stuff we want to share with you. But that reality check I think was important. So um, I think that what was happening and what's happening now is everybody is, and I'm not going to say everybody, most people are using AI for email drafts, summary meeting notes. I mean, we were laughing about all of the meeting note takers that are inside of meetings, but the reason is for the summaries. We are in meeting after meeting after meeting as the nature of the profession. And there's all of these takeaways that you've got to get after the fact. So that's why everybody's using meeting notes is they want to be able to summarize the meetings, who's got action items and whose responsibility is it for what. So the next piece that's coming are the agents, and the benefit to the agents are what they can take over, and the difference between a just an AI chat or a agent build is with a agent build, it can figure out along the way what are the due processes. What do I need? What action do I need to take? And then there was a question over in chat, and it was like, these agents can go connect to other apps? And the answer is yes. You have to give it access, and we want to be able to show you what that looks like to give it access, but you don't necessarily have to give it access to anything. You can go, I'm going to show you what ChatGPT looks like. We're going to build an agent there so that way you can see it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
connected to anything else. And then Heather's got a play where she's going to show you if it's connected to something, what that looks like. But there's permission settings in all of that. So agents have got more ability and more logic built into it and more action that it can take.
Yes, it can actually go do stuff. So it can write an email if you want it to. It can create a folder. It can create a
And send it.
spreadsheet. It can create a website. It can create all kinds of things. So it's, it is transformative. And as I said, I mean, I use it probably every hour.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if you've tried building a website with AI, but if within 5 minutes
Hmm.
it can build a website.
It's incredible.
Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? We should probably do an episode, Heather, where we just show, because so many of us don't have time to update our websites. We should show what an AI agent build for a website looks like.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's extremely cool. So what actually makes something an agent? So again, just the to be able to, like that super agent, coordinate multiple specialized agents across a workflow. So you were talking about this earlier, Heather. You're aggregating different data and then taking action on that aggregated data.
That's right. So an example of an agent in a real life, a real use case that I do at Woodard is I can look across my Monday data, my Outlook, HubSpot, Teams, and I can have it look across that and basically it'll pull that information together and give me a report on how I should prioritize my work for the week. It can also highlight any tasks that are past due, any emails that are not, that haven't been resolved, but it connects the dots. So that is something that's amazing. And you can create an agent that basically go out and do that and deliver a report to you on a daily, hourly, whatever basis. And I think that's what I'm seeing is the most powerful is the fact that it's once you connect these different data sets to Claude, which is the one that I've been using that seems to be the most powerful, but you can do it in ChatGPT too, is that it's able to create aggregate data that would have taken a human hours, maybe even days to create. So that's the power. And I think Bryce, to your question in the chat about, how is it actually saving time? How is it actually bringing value? That's the way I see it bringing value, is the fact that it's able to read from all these different platforms and create complex reports that highlight different areas of data from these places, which is pretty cool. So essentially what you're able to do is build custom apps, that would have, dashboards, right? That you would have had to have an app developer create.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many apps that I've created that would have required in the past to have a developer. And it's just vibe coding, is what they call it. But vibe coding is just putting in, what do you want the action to be? What do you want the output to be? And the GPT can figure out what the action needs to be. So
Right.
um, it tells you, it can walk you through. In fact, we're going to do some of that walking you through so you can see it, because I'm going to have ChatGPT guide me through creating an agent so that way you can see the logic on how it's built and how a GPT can actually walk you through the steps to build an agent.
Okay.
George, you asked a question. So self-containing. I'm going to show you an agent that is going to be inside of ChatGPT. So it is self-contained. I'm not connecting it to another app. Heather's going to show you one that she's connected to an app. So there's, in the very same ChatGPT, we're able to either connect to something so it can go and do outside activity or just stay self-contained.
And I think, George, I'm also wondering if you're thinking, okay, well, if I'm using ChatGPT, is it feeding the model? And could it be, because there was just a news story, I think last week, where somebody was using the Claude Chrome add-on to work, and the entire chat ended up getting indexed by Google. So anybody could have searched for terms and found those conversations through the internet. And so that's the concern, and it is a concern. But you can, so the way that Claude works for us is that when you're using the agents and you're creating things, it actually does create a local file, and there's settings in there that you can lock down to say, I'm not going to share any of my data with the model. But yes, when I'm sharing things with Claude, it's writing the information locally to my computer, or to my C drive, as it were. And then if I need to move it into a cloud environment to SharePoint or something, then I can do that. Now, could I have it write directly to SharePoint? Yep. But that is against our AI acceptable use policy to have anything written to our company's, our actual systems. So we can only write to our hard drive We can't write anywhere else, and then we can move the outputs there.
I think that's kind of standard policy at the moment. I think
Mhm.
it'll change, but I think at the moment, right now, we're all playing it very safe. I don't want any of my GPTs doing a lot of activity without my consent.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Workflow readiness. So, what could you turn into an agent? I think this is a really good pause to consider. So think of this as a scorecard. Is the process repeatable? A lot of the things that we do are. So whether it's month end close, you may not have taken that checklist out of your head. You may have it in a Word document. You could have it in an Excel file, whatever it is, however it exists. If it's repeatable, if it's something that's like step one, step two, step three, step four, even if you can take some of those steps and take them out of order, still there's a process there. And so that is a very good example of something that an agent can think about what the outcome needs to be, and it can go through what the process should be.
Liz, one other thing I just want to add too is we're talking about agents in the agents that you can find in platforms like, ChatGPT and Claude. But I just want to point out also to George's point that there are agents actually in other apps that we use, like QuickBooks has agents, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
has agents that are self-contained within QuickBooks. There's agents, we're starting to see them being rolled out in practice management solutions. Monday.com, which is our project management solution that we use, we have
And
agents
ClickUp.
in Monday.com. Our acceptable use policies, we're not allowed to use them. So we can't use those agents because they write data, they can delete things, they can change the environment, and we don't yet feel comfortable with having it do that within the program. So again, this is because we have a CTO that has gone and read the licensing agreement, the EULAs, the privacy policy, and understands it. And we're being very, very intentional and careful about making sure that we're protecting the data.
I don't think there's anything wrong with going slow. I think that what I would say is I caution you from not doing anything at all,
Right.
because because it is changing so quickly, this AI landscape, and will continue to change rapidly. I think that you want to stay involved.
And
And
informed.
so involved, informed, both of those, because we're going to do some hands-on things today that are very simple to do, and it just gets you familiar with what's possible.
For
And that's what
sure.
I think you need to do. Is I think a lot of these apps are going to continue to build in AI and agents into them. You were talking about workflow. ClickUps, they call it the brain. Their brain is incredible. It can write all of your social media for you. It can create images for you. So it can create all kinds of plans and prompts and do all kinds of things in there. And then you've got Canopy, that they've got a lot of agents that are workflow is what they're calling
Mhm.
their agent. And so there's a
Right.
lot of agents that are inside these apps. We're going to see that more and more and more. But I still think that it's great for us to have access to these apps where we can have hands-on, so we can play ourselves and get familiar.
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, absolutely.
The defined human approval point, I think that you and we've talked about this a bit around it. I don't want to give my apps access and then let it operate on its own. I still want to be, if there's something that's an email that's going to go out, before that email goes out, I want to proof it. And I'm not talking about, sometimes a we do templates, templated emails. That's different than saying, AI, go create this email based on the meeting I have and go send it. Those are two different scenarios. So I still want to approve before it sends. It may just be a button. So we're going to talk about email drafts, I think the next time that we meet. And so how to do that and approve it before it gets sent out is important.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later, about things that it shouldn't do as well. Yeah. Cool.
Um, Do we want to keep going through these or we want to?
Yeah, I mean, we can just quickly do it. Can the agent access required information? Does it have access to the data it needs to actually complete the task, right? So in some cases, if you have to upload stuff, is it gonna know, does it have access to go get it? If it doesn't, then that's probably better for a project that's gonna need a little bit more human intervention to complete it. It won't be automated as an agent. Are the decision rules clear, and have you given parameters on and been very specific about what the outcome should look like? So can the outcome be defined, and can exceptions be identified and communicated? So all those things are things that you should be looking at when you're deciding what types of tasks should be that could be well suited for an agent.
And I like this 4 agent model example. So I like this idea of what can be turned over to an agent. So, the discovery agent. So collecting information, identifying tech stacks. We had an app that came on, App Inventory. It did a really good job. If they had an agent in there that would look at all of the different apps that were connected to that particular client, it would identify the industry. It would look at, are there any duplicates in the app technologies that were connected? And so was there an opportunity to remove one of those, or did in fact you need both of them because they're doing different jobs? I know sometimes with clients and even in our own firms, it's easy to say, well, I want double, and then I also want financial sense, and I also want to have this other app. Well, sometimes those do similar functions,
They
and
do.
so you want to identify. So that's an ability that an agent would be able to have. um this is a good one. So the intelligence agent, so reviewing the month end close, creating flags whenever they see anomalies. I was just talking about doubles. So doubles another good one that does a really nice job of that. Some of the other workflow apps are doing a really nice job of pulling in a month end close checklist, and some of that is just going off of a workflow. Some of those are built off of agents. So a lot of the different technologies are doing a variety of things right now,
They
but
are.
finding anomalies is a big one.
And it's, we had Jessica from Meridian by Pilot on just a few weeks ago, and that basically what they have built in Meridian is a bunch of agents that will do the month end close and actually do some of that work. So that's all
That's
agents. And talking about having it self-contained, it is self-contained within their application. So this is a case where you don't have to build anything. They've got it. You can customize
Yep.
it for your firm, but they've already built it. They've already done the vetting, as it were. Definitely you want to make sure you're asking questions that are, concerning to you, to make sure, and reading the EULA and the privacy policy. But that's an example of how somebody's been able to take agents and actually to do the actual accounting work, the
Yeah.
transactional work.
And what's exciting about that is I actually went ahead and scheduled with Meridian. So I'm doing some meetings with them in order to onboard.
That's awesome. It's
I
great.
can't wait. I'll keep y'all posted on my
Yeah.
thoughts because
Yeah.
I want to know and use it and go through the quirks of it, and I'll give
That's
feedback. But
awesome.
yeah,
Really quick, the advisory agent is, I mean, we see lots of apps that are doing this. Aider, Digits, that's how Digits started, right? Where it's taking data and actually creating advisory, right? Aider even had, I don't think they've launched it yet, but they had in beta you can upload videos of yourself and it can actually create a pre-recorded meeting that isn't really you, but it looks like you and sounds like you, and
the
it's speaking
avatar.
to, yeah, it's an avatar. And then I love this last one so much, and this is an example of something that you actually really could do in ChatGPT. I have not seen this, but I bet we will very, very shortly. I don't know, Liz, if you've seen this actually in an app, but the engagement renewal agent, which would monitor the engagement letter, what are you engaged to do, service utilization, are they using all of these things, pricing shifts. So is there any out of scope work that was completed that was not an engagement letter that needs to be included in that renewal conversation? Now, totally different from, I mean, not totally different, very similar on my end, is I've built an agent that actually goes across multiple systems for some of our sponsors with the features that they or the services and the features that they've engaged Woodard to do, and to do this exact thing. And so weekly, I get a report that shows the activity and gives me opportunities to lean in and say, hey, you have this feature or this benefit that you haven't utilized in a while. Let's have a meeting and talk about how you can actually really lean into that. And so again, the time that it would take for me to do that manually, because I've done it manually, is a lot. It's a lot of going into different systems and pulling down data and assembling them into an Excel worksheet. Now I don't have to do, in fact, all I have to do is open the agent and it's already running because I have it on a schedule. So
That's
you could
awesome.
do, yeah, and you could do this with your clients where you have it has the engagement letters, it can see your email, it can see your, data from your practice management system. This type of stuff this can be built, and I would imagine that this stuff will be native within practice management systems soon.
Yep. I agree with you. Here's some more workflow examples. We're going to look at some onboarding. Again, it's a process, missing documents, month-end close, internal knowledge search. All of those are opportunities to look at different workflows. And then what should not be converted. I think that this is important. If it's unstructured judgment, so if there has to be a human decision, I don't think that it's ready for an agent. You could create some logic that says, send me an email if this happens. And so it stops the flow of progression and, pivots and waits until you reply to it. So that's an option, but still I would be I would be hesitant to do anything that doesn't have a good structure to it. Moving of money, I would be careful in that space. I know that there's a lot of bill pay solutions that have got agents now built into it. They've tested them, they've tried it out. So I would trust that. But building some agents on my own for payments, I wouldn't trust it. Sensitive communication, again, I would make sure that this is something that you stop and you're making sure that you understand all of the checkpoints. And poorly documented, anything that doesn't flow well as it is, you shouldn't turn over into an agent. But I am going to show you how to build an SOP based off of an undocumented process. So we will turn it into something that can be turned into an automated process. um this is just, again, it's like agents are not going to replace accountants. There's still opportunity for us to be very actively involved with our clients, but the role is changing. Just like you were saying, Heather, accountants who are using AI are going to replace accountants who are not using AI. I do think that that's true. I do think it's going to happen quick. But there's still going to always be opportunity for the whenever you're preparing a tax return. We're coming up on the extension season, and so making sure that an accountant, even if the tax return is being prepared by AI, because there's a lot of tools out there that are doing that now, still having a human go and look at, does this make sense? Did all of the documents get interpreted correctly? Did everything flow correctly? Were there any hallucinations? So that's all still human judgment. This is just at a glance, some frameworks. So again, just what flows well, what has processes, those are good opportunities for creating agents. Things that don't have a good flow to them, payroll changes. Okay, that probably is going to require human eyes. I would not just hand that over to an agent. Change orders, tax notices, sensitive communication. Again, all of this, and moving data. Heather, you were talking about that one earlier. You can delete all of your client files.
Yeah, yeah. It can delete stuff. Not good.
All right, so what work can agents do? Start small, stay deliberate, build capacity. So I think that this is a good chance for us to stop with some of the slides and go into sharing.
Demo. I think I have to
Yes.
do I have to allow you to share, or are you good to go?
I think I've been
Or
sharing
do you want me
screen.
to go first? Mine's pretty simple. Let's start with mine because mine's super simple.
Okay, I stopped share.
Okay, I'm gonna share mine. So I am in ChatGPT and I just built this literally. I'm going to show you how easy this was. Let's see. Can you guys see it? All right. So what I did is I created an accounting tech brief. So what it does is I said every Monday, brief me on consequential accounting technology and automation developments that matter for education, media, and happy hour content, especially cloud accounting, workflow automation, artificial intelligence, and practical best practices for firms. Okay. So I went ahead and did that. It said it's going to do it. I told it I wanted it to arrive every Monday morning around 8 a.m. Eastern, beginning August 17th, which is next Monday. So it's going to say, here's some information, what matters, education, happy hour discussion angles, rank list of top 3 strongest content opportunities and links to credible sources with promotional fluff. So all I did was this, and I even think that my prompt when I was setting this agent up was even shorter. I think it was just like, I want to do an AI technology update every Monday. And it actually filled in the gaps based on my profile, and asked me a few questions before it actually created it. So I said, okay, well, let's create one for today because I want to see what it looks like. And this is what it gave. Okay. So it's going through and giving me some outputs. So that 32% of his underlying contract value involved generative AI in Q2, up 30%. The AI, the new Journal of Accountancy guidance is talking about that the AI CPA is saying, hey, stop looking at this as tech and start looking at it as professional judgments. So we can't just say we're relying on. I hear this a lot from CPAs, like, why should I look at AI any different from my tax software? And the ACPA agrees with me because it's different, right? Because people can ask a question of AI, get an answer, copy and paste it that has no professional experience in it. It's a danger. So anyway, I'm not going to go through every one of these, but you can see that it created some recommendations. I'm not going to have to do this every week. It's just going to happen. So this is an easy one that you can do, and that you can set up. So as I mentioned, for the plugins, you can plug in a lot of data into ChatGPT. I was actually playing with a tarot card one and an astrology one. Little spoiler alert, when I did the astrology one, because I wanted it to create a fun thing based on my fun things for me to do based on my astrological chart, it got it wrong. So it got it wrong. So that was interesting. So again, we got to verify, right? You got to verify it. And if I knew nothing about astrology, I would not know that it was wrong. And it's a very low risk thing, but you get the idea. So you can connect these different apps to your ChatGPT, and it can actually create things in them. So this is it really is I don't want to say I do want to say it's simple because it is simple. But again, you have to make sure that you truly understand what it's doing and what types of controls that you're giving it. And I just want to show, because this was the one that you and I were looking at. If I were to go ahead and connect my email here, I just want to show you when I install this, it actually brings me to the login page. And I want you to see what we saw. Permissions requested for ChatGPT. It wants to maintain access to data you've given it access to. It can read my mail. It can read and write access to my mail. It can send mail on behalf of you or others, right? It can have full access to my contacts, send mail as you. And this sounds really scary. So this made me pause and go, okay, well, I need to understand what can it actually do. Now, there are permissions here, right? Where you can go in and you can say that every time it's going to access this plugin, that you have to give it approval. And that's what I would recommend at this point, right? So we have that. I use Claude when I'm developing content. And every time it wants to go through and make a change to the existing content, which is, that I've already written, I have to override it because it's writing right back to an existing file that lives on our server. So that's an appropriate use of it, but I had to get authorization to do that. right? Because I am writing to existing data. So these are the types of things, and right here's the terms of service, the privacy statement, and here's the different details. So I just wanted to show you guys that so you can understand these are the things you need to be thinking about. And if you need guidance on that, I would recommend, reaching out to a qualified, technology professional. Liz, I know you're doing some AI consulting. I know there's some other folks out there that are helping with this type of implementation within firms. That's not a bad idea to have them explain it. So that was my show and tell. I'm going to kick it over to you because I love your show and tell so much. And it's much more complex than what I built.
Well, I think that there's such a wide variety that it's important to see all of the different aspects. So what I'm going to start with is most everyone at this point has got a ChatGPT account. So that's where I'm going to start because it's kind of a common solution. And if you are in the ChatGPT Plus subscription, you have access to, if you come over here to more, you have access to GPTs. So you can create GPTs, you can store your GPTs in here. And so what I'm going to show you is creating an agent. So their GPTs are considered agents. And here's the difference. If you've ever gone into chat and you've said, for example, draft an email for me, it doesn't ask you a gajillion questions, it just drafts it. It might ask you questions after the fact. Do you need this next? Do you need, that next? But it's going to do whatever simple action that you asked it to do. The difference with an agent build is in this scenario, I'm going to ask it, want to create SOPs. I want it to ask me along the way questions before it just goes and does the action. So I am over here and I said, create a new GPT. And then if you're in question about how do I use ChatGPT in order to be able to help me with this, I think a while back, Heather, you and I were talking about using your ChatGPT to help you use your
Build GPT.
ChatGPT.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
anyway, so I'm going to ask it. I've got a separate browser tab open, so I can come over here and I can say, I want to create a simple GPT for a demo. The GPT will be used for accounting SOPs. So it's going to come back with my prompt for what I want to populate inside of my GPTs. So this is a great way to get started. It's like, oh, it's ridiculous, simple. So it's giving itself a pat on the back. And it's going through, I love that it does that. I think that ChatGPT pats itself on the back more than Claude does. Okay, so it
I think you're
created
right.
this all on its own. I can copy it and let me show you how to use it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say that I want it to create this simple accounting SOP builder. So it's thinking about it. So it's updating. And then while it's updating, we can come over here and we can look at what they call configuring. So based off the information that I gave it, it can populate this on its own based on what I gave it. It's not creating a picture for me, but I don't care. It can populate this on its own, or I can come over here and I can populate what I want this to be. So I want this to be in an accounting SOP builder. I could give a short description of what I want it to do. So I could tell it that what I want it to do is to I've got some of these saved because I figure we might be running low on time. Okay, so conversation starters. I want it to help me create SOPs by interviewing me about the process. Turn these messy notes into SOPs. So it's assuming that there's notes or that it lives in somebody's head. And then I can even say, I have a process. I want you to help me clean it up. So I've got those in here. And then that same SOP builder that I had just a second ago that I copied and I said create it, I could even put that in my instructions. So here's the step-by-step of what I want you to do. And here's my description. Whoops, come back. So turn an accounting process into a clear, practical SOP by answering 5 simple questions. I'm making this 5 simple questions because I wanted to make this a fast build for everyone, but you could take those 5 simple questions out. I don't want it to search the web. I don't have any knowledge documents to upload, so that's all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to say create. So now I get to say, this is my agent that I just built. So I can make it visible only to myself. I could make it visible to everyone. So if I wanted to share this with the firm, if I wanted to share this with another peer, I could. So save. And then from here, I've got a simple instructions for me come back over here and use my agent builder. And then I can say, I need an SOP for a new bookkeeping client. Ask me what you need to know. So what starts the onboarding process? So I could answer that question. And I could say, I could tell it what the trigger is. I could say, I've got who the trigger is, who the owner is, that, there's a financial statement that's involved. So it's, keeping it simple, example, welcome email, here's the things that I need. And so if I wasn't sure what I wanted it to do at this point, I could even come over into my chat GPT and I could say, hey, I'm going to plug this answer in. How do I respond to this? And so I could plug it in. And I could even help it to formulate what the process needs to look like. So again, use your chat GPT to help you learn how to work through this process better. So going back and forth, it's like I'm using chat GPT in order to help it build the agents for me. So how do you know when the onboarding is officially complete? Are there any important exceptions, approvals, or handoffs? So I could say, okay, give me some examples, ChatGPT, of what some of those handoffs need to be. Now, of course, if we were doing this in less than 5 minutes, you could probably go through here and you could, give it more instructions on what it needs to do. But for the sake of time, I just want to do this really quickly. So that way you can see what a finished product looks like. Okay, so here it is. So it was based on the information that you provided. Again, we did a very simple build, but this could have been extremely complex. It came up with a document, and I can turn it into a Word doc, which if I was working with the client, I could say, let's review this together, client, and let's make sure that I understand what the handoff is. Or if you're talking to a team, I could ask the team, is this the actual process? So a new bookkeeping client comes on board. Here's the process. Send the client a welcome email, invite them to your workflow tool, request QuickBooks access, make sure that you've got access to statements, and then any type of additional things. Is there cleanup that's involved? And then it even created a quick checklist. If I wanted to, I could keep going and I could say, turn this into a workflow inside of my workflow tool. So I can keep building, but I think you get the general idea. Is here's the difference of an agent is I asked it to slowly go through a scenario and to help me create an SOP. This can be for anything. We did onboarding, but it could have been for AP. It could have been month-end close. And so this agent builder is going to do the same thing for all of the SOPs that are necessary inside of a firm. You could do this for a client, but I'm going to get back to slides. But I like the general idea of help me get it out of my head, help me get it out of my team member's head. And sometimes the roughest point is knowing where to start. I haven't looked at any questions. Is there anything about what I just did?
Jim was asking where how you store your prompts. So where you store your prompts. And I think that in the agent you can store prompts there. So those end up being the prompts that you would use in the agent. But other prompts that you're not going to use that are not in a GPT, I use an app called Magical, which is a text expander, and I use that to copy things that I use a lot, which a lot of those are prompts. So if I'm going to ChatGPT, but honestly, I don't use it as much anymore because I can just create a GPT for it now. So or even a project in ChatGPT. So
I feel like we could have used the entire episode to go through agents, but I think that there's a lot of setting the stage for what do you use agents for. We just showed you 2 examples. There's so many more. Our next episode that's coming up, we're going to be talking about AI and email. And so this is another opportunity that you can use scheduled prompts. So we're going to show that. We're going to show agents. And we're going to show, using ChatGPT to be able to connect and go and look at email and do things. So stay tuned for that because there's a lot of opportunity.
awesome. And then there was one more question. We do have to go. Is Jim, just if you have quickly can answer it, what is the difference between an agent and a prompt in your example, Liz?
So if I was just going to go over to ChatGPT and I was going to say, create an SOP, I could have the SOP create a onboarding, but it would be generic. What I had was the agent that was asking me. So if I slowed down and made it where it wasn't 5 questions, I would say, who's in charge of it? What's the handoff? What does that handoff look like? What workflow tool are you using? And so you can really slow down to make the SOP very specific to the situation. Where if you just go over to ChatGPT or to Claude or whatever, and you just say create an SOP, you miss a lot of those handoff opportunities. Who's the owner of it? And so those nuances that can happen, that's where it's nice to have an agent that's going to walk you through question by question what is necessary to know.
Yes. And then before we jump off, and I know a lot of you have to go, and I apologize for going over, is you're going to be getting an email. We're actually, Happy Hour is going to be going to monthly. And so you're going to be getting an email from us about that change. And then the other thing that you're going to see coming through is some notifications from Zoom where we're actually removing some of those sessions. So don't be alarmed. Happy Hour is not going anywhere. We're just updating our schedule. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at info@thehappyhour.com. Thanks, everybody. Liz, this has been a blast. And
love hanging out with all of you.
Yeah.
So
and we'll
take
see you
care.
next month.
And, enjoy.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.